That's what I'm talking about, son. Get you some of that daggone pie.
Woo-hoo! Looky there. There's your bug-eyed big one right there.
Getting started. We're getting started.
Here's what I'm talking about. Gosh dang gorilla.
Let's go, baby. Straight meat. God, look at that big one.
All right, welcome in everybody to the BAM Pod. I'm your host, Big Ed, and on the line tonight, I've got John Meyers. And John is a tournament angler. You might know him around here in California. He's been fishing a lot of different tournaments out here, but you know what? We got him on here tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about some spotted bass fishing. It's that time of year. Water's cooling off. You know, the rains are coming in. Winter's knocking at the door. Fall's been good, but it's been, you know, and we're going to talk a little bit about what it's like right now, what some of the baits he really chooses and likes and what he wants to do. He just got off the water today. He's been fishing a little bit yesterday. So yeah, the guy's fresh off the water. So John, welcome into the show, man.
Thanks, Ed. I appreciate it, man. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and talk on your podcast.
Yeah, this has been, you know, California's been weird the last couple of years because we're in this new wave of you know, El Niños and all the different things, and we're getting a lot of water, and we're not used to having so much water all the time. And and it comes and goes over the years. But as we talk about fishing right now, and we're going into fall, we're coming into winter. Like I said before, winter's knocking at the door. It wants to come in. And this is that time of year, agree with me, I think, but when spotted bass really start to shine, where largemouth start to slack off a little bit, smallmouth kind of go away, and spots really, they're the savior of California sometimes.
They're pretty easy to catch if you could chase them down. How about that?
Yeah. Well, and we're kind of known out here. People know about Bullard's Bar. People know about, the fact that we've got 3 different world records that have been broken here in California with spotted bass. But they're there's a lot of lakes around here that have some really, really good spotted bass in them. And, you were talking about a couple of them today. Earlier here that and I'd love to pick your brain a little bit about what it is to kind of change up and go away from the largemouth, go away from because we're pretty well known for having a lot of big largemouth as well, but to have some quality spotted bass to go after. Catching a 3 and 4 pound spotted bass here in California is not all that hard to do. People do it all the time. And that's hard, and that's hard to say across the country. So people listening to this show, I'm hoping that they're, going to listen in a little bit and go, wow, this is some good information. Maybe I can try this back home. So let's kind of delve into that a little bit and talk about, you said, you were out today. And I'm going to say this, and you were on O'Neill Forebay, right?
Yes, the O'Neill Forebay, yes.
And the day before that, you said you were on McClure.
Yeah.
I mean, those are
McClure. Yeah.
The McClure's known for having some pretty good spotted bass in it.
Yes, actually, I've caught my largest spotted bass on Lake McClure on a flick shake with a Slim Cinco and natural shad.
Wow.
5.5 pounder. Yes, 5.5 pounder. Caught it pretty shallow. Yeah. Yeah, I recently went there and found a phenomenal spoon bite. And what I mean by phenomenal, probably caught over 100 fish.
Wow.
Me and my partner. Yeah, we had a tournament. It was the Ed Lacey yearly tournament. I have a bass boat too. And we went there, and I had found 6 different groups of bait that the spotted bass were using to feed on. And the best one I found, it wasn't way in the back of a creek. It was more of Main Lake, and it was a cut. It was a real deep cut. There was 100+ feet of water close by. Wow. We were catching them suspended anywhere from 30 to 40 feet of water, occasionally on the bottom in about 75 feet of water. And it was just one of those days. It was a magical day. We caught so many fish. My thumbs are both raw. My team partner, he accidentally got a hook in his finger, and I had to do a little braided line trick and pulled it out, meanwhile. And it was a good day. Lake McClure right now, it's kind of fishing like Shasta. I think Shasta might have a little better quality right now, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But they're pretty identical. This time of year, early winter, kind of mid-fall, kind of like it. It's kind of early fall still, but it's kind of going into winter. We're getting really cold nights now, and the fish are really just pushing the bait big time. I can't wait for the jig bite to really turn on. I love throwing jigs. I focus jig bite in it depends. I mean, I'll fish as deep as 80 feet, even to 100 feet
Mm-hmm.
on our deep, clear reservoirs.
Right.
I love to focus on fist-size rock. And if I could find an island top, that's even better. And I'll basically get in my kayak, spot lock it, and throw over to either I'll get on top of the rock pile on the island top
Mm-hmm.
and throw out deep, or I'll get out deep and then throw up shallow. I usually start deep and throw up shallow, and then I'll switch up and then throw out deep and pull it up. But it's amazing how often you catch fish before the jig ever hits the bottom. Again, spotted bass, I think they're like striper bass. They're gypsies, and they love to move. And if you could get on them and get on that right school of fish, you can get wealthy in a hurry. And in a kayak,
Yeah.
with the rules nowadays, once you catch a fish, you have to measure it, take a picture, release it before you make the next cast. Okay. So in a bass tournament, obviously once you have 5, you have to cull, but you could catch 5 like in 5 casts. It's real quick.
Right.
And when you get a good school of fish, feeding, it's as quick as you drop it down, you catch a fish. And that's what I experienced the other day. Basically, forward facing sonar.
Okay.
It was huge. Literally would scan around, and I'd say, okay, 1 o'clock, they're 30 feet out and 40 feet of water, and we're in 75 feet. And basically would pitch the spoon out in front of us, and I'd watch my spoon go down into the school, and you would see the school come up and get real active, and I'd feel them hit it, but they would miss it. And I'd let it go through the school, then I'd click over my bell, and I'd reel up real quick, and then hit the spool again, and then I would catch one. It was literally that quick.
Wow.
My team partner, he was spoon on the bottom, and he caught 3 of our bigger fish off the bottom. And I was thinking, wow, was it the spoon? I don't think it was a spoon as much as, those bigger fish. They're pretty smart compared to those young juvenile, aggressive schooling fish. They get on the bottom. The big ones get on the bottom, and then they just wait for the stuff to come down, and they just flip it off the bottom. That's why they get that big.
Yeah.
So, it's a learning experience. Every time I go out, I always learn something new. And that was one of the things I was like, wow, okay. I did catch a 2 1/4, which I thought that was like a giant. I think the big fish of the day was a 3-pounder for that tournament.
Nice.
But he caught 3 fish over 2 pounds, all off the bottom, and he was getting little easy pulls off the bottom, yo-yoing off the bottom.
Right.
Not a big snap or nothing. And you know, he, like I said, he caught the bigger fish, the majority of the bigger fish. So,
Now,
you know, and he, yeah, go ahead.
well, now let me ask you that, because you're talking about spoons right now, and it's what size are you looking at? Because with the world of spoons today, there's so many
Oh
different
boy.
sizes of spoons. I mean, you can have giant flutter spoons, you can have ones that are 8-10 inches long. Were you guys focusing on that size, or were you focusing on small, like the traditional, I guess, Hopkins kind of spoon, where it's a 3/4 hammered metal? What was your focus on? Big.
That's a great question. So first thing in the morning, I went with the biggest spoon I have. It's a 6-inch spoon, big old wide thing.
Okay.
And I figure with low light, so early in the day, early in the morning, it doesn't seem like the spoon bite's good until later in the day. For some reason, for me, I've always experienced a better spoon bite as the day goes on. And then, Duo Realis just came out with this spoon, and this spoon, it doesn't flutter, and it's kind of like a jigging spoon, but it weighs more than an ounce, and just like the perfect size, and it gets right down to them right now. So the flutter spoon, when you drop it, it doesn't always drop straight. It flutters off to the side, one way or the other. You could actually get it and pitch it to a dock and let line out, and it will go underneath the dock. This Duo Realis drops straight down, and that was the biggest key. I am 100% a Hopkins hammered spoon guy.
Yeah,
seriously, I have a box full of them, and my buddy, he showed me this Duo Realis spoon. Actually, I put in an order like in Japan, paid with yen. So it's a good thing about the internet nowadays. But, they're a little hard to find, and they have a lot of different colors, a lot of great colors. My buddy was using a P line. It's a real slim one.
Yeah.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. The P line one. I had like a chartreuse back and a blue line in it with the chrome, the reflective type.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I wonder if it's the color.
Right.
Fishermen are crazy where it comes to color. It's like how many different colors of everything we have. It's like really, once it gets that deep, I truly believe it's a silhouette more than a color. After 20 feet deep, it's a silhouette.
Yeah, so, I think the colors pretty much go away after about 10 to 15 feet anyways, except for I think red's the last in the spectrum to go away. So once you're down there, like you said, about 20 feet, 25 feet, you're just looking at whatever the silhouette is. Like you're saying, that's good. Exactly. It's good to think about.
Yeah. The spoon, my buddy, like I said, he got bigger ones off the bottom, but I probably got 5 to his 1, and that's because of the forward facing. Because I'm in the front of the boat and I'm like scanning around, and I see the wolf pack come in, and I just pitch to him. I literally would like reel up, and I'd wait. I'd look around. Oh, there they are. And I pitch over to them. So, and again too, that heavy spoon, and it goes straight down. It doesn't flutter, like a flutter spoon. Even a Hopkins, when you drop it, it has a tendency to kind of go off, to one side or another. Occasionally, it does go straight down. So I mean, and then the P-line spoon, it does drop straight down. It's that slim, but it kind of does flutter off to the side. So,
well, I'm sure,
and two, the flutter spoon was working too.
Well, I'm sure that most spoons are just they're going to move a little bit. They're not just going to go exactly straight down, unless you're pretty much just right over the top of them, barely moving them, keeping them on a tight line. But what you're saying right now, and I think is interesting, is that you're talking about more of a, you're casting out to these fish. You're not throwing directly below your boat. It's not like you're positioning yourself like in the old days where with that forward facing sonar, nowadays you can see those packs of, like you said, those wolf packs of fish way out there. And as you come, in the older days, we always had to go over the top of the fish. And all of a sudden you'd see a big ball of bait fish, and then you'd see the fish below them. And that was, hey, drop straight down. And that's the drop was good for that. The spoon was good for that, and you could be right on top of. But the way you're talking right here is that you really didn't have to do that. You were throwing out hey, they're 30 feet away. They're 40 feet away. I can throw out, cast to them, let that thing drop down and vertically jig it or horizontal or bring it back more of a, towards your boat.
Through the school. Yeah.
Right. Through the school.
Yes.
Does that seem to make a difference to you, noticing that, hey, when I'm casting out to them as compared to being on top of them, are they less, wary, I guess, of what you're doing?
Bass Angler Magazine is your guide to better bass fishing. Bass Angler is dedicated to helping you catch more and bigger bass no matter what time of year or where you live. This is not your ordinary fishing magazine. Every issue is jam-packed with 30-plus articles from the world's best bass anglers. Bass Angler Magazine is available at bassanglermag.com, Tackle Warehouse, Bass Pro Shops, Cabela's, Gander Mountain, Walmart, and better tackle shops everywhere. Bass Angler also makes a great gift for any angler. Get Bass Angler today and start catching more bass tomorrow. Visit bassanglermag.com or your favorite tackle shop. This is not your ordinary fishing magazine. bassanglermag.com.
That's a great question, and I did leave one really important part out. and so what I focus on is a big, tight school of bait on the bottom. Okay. Not patches of bait here and there. I want a big, thick ball of bait on the bottom or near the bottom. Okay. And that's what I would go around and find. And this one spot, it was kind of off the main lake, like I said, it was a cut off the main lake pocket. And then, anyways, I had found this big school of fish that was anywhere from 40 feet to 70 feet. So it was like a 30-foot ball of bait. And the fish would come out of nowhere, basically, or from deep water or whatever. And they would be in 30 feet of water, and they would go down on top of them and then just destroy the bait fish. But that's another part of the key is finding that big ball of bait. And the fish would keep coming back. I wouldn't say the same ones, but another school would come in, and another school would come in. Now, when I would scan around, there was times when they're in 30 feet of water, I'd pitch out to them, and they're about 40 feet away from me. I'd pitch out to them. My spoon would drop down 1,000, 1,000, and it would stop. Wow. And I would reel in, I'd have one on, But the majority of them, I would wait for them to actually come underneath the boat, and I would drop straight down on them. You would see them coming in. And then I would pitch to them at first, and if they wouldn't eat, I'd wait for them to get right below me, and then I would drop right on them. And it was just like the old days where you would see them above the bait or below the bait. Right. You rarely would catch a fish in the bait, but like I said, my buddy, he caught the bigger ones on the bottom. I was catching the majority of them on the top of the bait, and those are the ones I was seeing. But he was catching the bigger ones on the bottom part, like we did in the old days, where you would idle around with the 2D, and there's no side imaging, no 3D, none of that, just 2D, and it would take you hours to find the school of bait. Once you found that school of bait, you would sit on that bait and try to follow it around, and then wait for a school to come through. But now with the forward facing, you actually can scan around and say, okay, here they come, they're in 30 feet of water, drop it down to 30 feet or let it hit the bottom and then reel up 20 feet or 40 feet or whatever, however deep it was. And that's what we were doing. And it was, like I said, 100 fish. It was, I think we caught 90 to 100 fish, maybe a little more, but probably closer to 90. And it was just a really good day. I mean, it's not often that, I catch 100 fish in a day or 50 to 60 fish in a day. But this time of year,
Yeah.
you really can. You really can.
Yeah.
That's just how aggressive they get. When, once wintertime comes and they start setting up on the rock or in the wood, and they suspend in the wood and suspend in these trees.
Right.
You kind of have to work a little harder for them. You find where creek channel bends or a ledge, they'll be on the top of the flat part of the ledge.
Right.
And they could be, I've caught them in 80 feet of water on a 1/2 ounce jig or a 3/4 ounce jig in 80 feet of water on a flat where there's a ledge on each side of it, but they go up on the flat and feed. So it's the same thing. It's crazy. You would think in 80 feet of water, what? Yeah, a flat in 80 feet of water. Well, yeah, I throw spinnerbaits on a flat in 3 feet of water, but
Right.
they still feed on a flat, more than they would on the edge, off the edge. Those are the fish that are like done eating for the moment, and then they move up to the flat and feed, and they move back off. So, here in the wintertime, I actually, in our deep reservoirs, 80 feet of water is not really deep.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird to say that. A lot of people would think, what do you mean 80 feet of water? 30 feet around here is super deep. Well, our deep water reservoirs, they fluctuate hundreds of feet in a year.
Right.
Like you said, we had a drought to the point where I'm like mentally thinking, okay, I got to remember that spot. I waypoint this spot as the lake goes up because it's a finger off a point that has rock on it. It's perfect structure. And then 2, believe it or not, I'll look for the shell bed.
Right.
People think shell beds are shallow. Well, I mean, these shell beds, they're deep too, and they hold the fish. New Maloney's, I found this one spot. It was like in 50 feet of water. It was a finger off of a point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you hold your hand out and you have a finger
Yep.
Off the side of it. Now that had shell on it. It had rock on it, fist-sized rock, shell, because I saw it out of the water one day. And I'm like, that's why I was catching those fish right there. And they were like 3 and 4 pound spotted bass.
Right.
And it wasn't like 1 or 2. It was like 3 or 4. And then you leave and come back and you catch 3 or 4 more. And I would throw, believe it or not, a tube. A tube is like one of my baits I have a lot of confidence in. And then a dart head with the Cinco.
Okay.
Not many people use the dart head and the Cinco. That was catching the bigger fish. The tube caught more, but the Cinco on a dart head, I'd use a 1/4 ounce or a 3/8 ounce. And depending on how deep I was, and you just throw it out and you just barely drag it. And they would hit it hard. And then if it had brush on it, I would put the Cinco on a shaky head. So it was Texas rig.
Okay.
Or a wobble head. But it was a Cinco, a 5-inch Cinco. And most people think a Cinco,
Right.
no weight, you throw it out and let it sink. Well, try it on a wobble head, try it on a dart head.
Yeah.
Texas rig it, and I always think too that there's never an absolute.
Right.
Never. So when it comes to fishing, it never fails. I bring someone never fished before in their life in a boat, or and they catch a fish. Like, is that a fish there? I go, yeah, that's a fish. And they drop down, like, oh, I got him. I'm thinking, what? But yeah, so I learn every day, and it's amazing on how many different ways you can catch a fish. And the older I get, I kind of get stuck on things.
Oh, of course.
And they work. Don't get me wrong. This stuff does work. But I always tell myself, you can't catch memories.
Right.
So,
Definitely.
you know, you really can't catch memories. You know, you go like Clear Lake, not Clear Lake, whenever you catch fish off of, you know, that aren't schooled up, and you catch a fish under this dock. Well, the next day you go back, you're not going to catch a fish under that dock because you did yesterday.
Right.
On the Delta, it's almost the same thing. You know, you really can't catch that same fish. But on these reservoirs in this time of year, there's so many fish that are schooled up that you could catch, you know, 100 of them in a day.
Right.
It's amazing.
And you proved that today.
Bass. You're right. The spotted bass, I mean, I caught largemouth bass. They were 6 to 8 inches long.
I was gonna say, and I was gonna ask you that today. Because I fish lakes like Berryessa, and that which is kind of an anomaly around here, but we have, you know, it's got good quality smallmouth in it, really big largemouth in it, and good sized spotted bass in it. And I'll go out there with a spoon and have days where I catch all three in 3 different casts. You know, I catch the same 3 fish out of those schools. When you're fishing some of these lakes, you know, this time of year, are you finding that still happening? Do you catch all 3 species of, you know, of those fish this time of year, or does it kind of trend more towards spotted bass?
You know, it's like Berryessa. You could catch smallmouth, largemouth, and spots.
Right.
In 3 casts. And you could catch a 3-pounder, a 4-pounder, and a 5-pound spot.
Right.
In 3 casts. I mean, that's Lake Berryessa. Berryessa is a phenomenal fishery. Unbelievable how many giant schools of smallmouth and largemouth and spotted bass in that lake. I just can't believe it. I've never taken my boat there. I've always fished out of a kayak there.
Yeah.
And the crappie there, the squaw fish there, the place is a phenomenal fishery. It's unbelievable. Now, at McClure, you can catch a small largemouth, occasionally a smallmouth, more upriver area. But when it comes to, you know, the dominant species at McClure, definitely it's the spotted bass. Okay. Don Pedro is basically almost the same type of lake, but it's more largemouth dominated. Okay. And it becomes a really tough fishery at times. Right now, you want to fish trees, and you could catch the largest largemouth you've ever caught in your life in the trees. You got to throw the big swim baits. But that lake too, the spotted bass, they'll school up with the largemouth. You could catch back-to-back largemouth, spotted bass. Yeah, they school together. Yeah, not so much at McClure. Now Maloney's, it's kind of weird. It's like they almost hate to be together sometimes. I can't say I've caught them back to back, but usually when you get on a school of spotted bass, it's all spotted bass. Occasionally you can get a largemouth in there, but mostly spotted bass. But if you get on the largemouth bass, it's mostly largemouth bass. Yeah, it depends on the fishery. Yeah. Yeah. But you know, I just fished the TOC at Berryessa, and I didn't do any pre-fishing. I showed up on tournament morning, and I kind of thought I could spoon some nice fish. I didn't fish clean, you know. Kind of had some bad luck with that. I don't think if I caught all the fish that it would have mattered any, but I mean, I would have placed a lot better than what I did. Yeah. You know, but yeah, you know, if anybody if you have never fished Lake Berry, you need to try it. You need to go there and fish it.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the best reservoirs where you could catch giant smallmouth, largemouth, and spotted bass. Yes. Yeah, it's one of the better lakes right now.
Well,
I mean, Trinity and Clear Lake, you know.
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton. There's just a ton of lakes in California you can. But one of the things that you said back in there, and another one that I've been noticing is the last two I've talked about. This time of year, I hear a lot of bait fish stuff. You're talking about, hey, this is bait fish time, right? I mean, this is when you're going to be. This is what you're focusing on. But you keep creeping in with talking about throwing jigs. As winter comes along, do you start to transition away from bait fish and back towards the crawdad imitations? Is this the time of year that starts to happen?
Hey folks, Randall and I want to talk to you real quick about choosing the right electronics mount for your bass boat.
Mark and I have been partnered with Bass Boat Technologies from the very beginning, and we know the quality and effort that Van Foster has put into this company.
Custom, that's the one thing that I think about whenever I think of Bass Boat Technologies. Van Foster has spent years, not hours, years perfecting these mounts. He works with just about every bass boat company out there, most models for every bass boat company out there. He has spent the time working on these bass boats. So what you get is a custom fitted mount, not some mass produced universal mount for every bass boat out there. Van makes them custom fit for your bass boat.
Bass Boat Technologies also makes a lot of other custom parts. Seat pedestal plugs, tool holders, steering wheel spacers, and battery trays are all made with the same attention to detail that Bass Boat Technologies is known for.
Bass Boat Technologies is a vital part of our livelihood, and it's very important to your overall boating experience also.
Absolutely, and that's why we choose Bass Boat Technologies. Check them out at bassboattech.com. You'll be glad you did.
It is. So that's the thing is right now it's hard to get bit on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the fish are suspended off the bottom. They're willing to bite. How about that?
Okay.
But yes, in the wintertime, I like to keep stuff on the bottom. I'll still have a spoon and a rig, big flutter spoon, on my, ready. Excuse me. And if I see, the fish moving, a wolf pack swim by or whatever, I'll definitely, pitch to them. A lot of times too, you just don't know what that wolf pack is, and
right.
Squawfish. I caught catfish. I caught bullhead catfish, trout, crappie, a squawfish, largemouth, and spotted bass at Lake McClure, all in one spot.
Wow.
On that spoon, that dual rally spoon. So, it's the forward facing. It's
right.
really a game changer. The catfish acted differently than the spots and the largemouth and so on, but.
Right. But there was still schools of those. So you were still seeing schools of catfish and schools of squawfish and school.
A crappie.
Right.
And they all showed up a little differently too on the forward facing. They were the crappie were super bright. They were in about 25 feet of water. I'm in like 60 to 70 feet of water, 75.
Right.
The crappie were in like, less than 25, and they were really bright.
Wow.
The catfish were fuzzy, and they were like, they would pay attention to the spoon. They kind of go down after it, then kind of like ignore it, and then kind of like swim around real quietly, softly and stuff. The trout would follow it, act real, erratically, and like zip, 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 and then stop, and then go real slow again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. More erratic action.
Yes, more erratic, and then they kind of slow down. And each one kind of has different signal our return, our brightness, you know, on your forward facing, and two, so I have both the 2D and the forward facing on both my boats,
Right.
and they all have different signals. You know, the more reddish ones were the catfish. Obviously, the ones that had some yellow in it on the 2D were bass or the squawfish, or I forgot, I also caught buffalo carp. Now, buffalo carp, they act just like bass.
Yeah.
They really do. They act just like bass. So, it's our fisheries, I think, compared to back east, our fisheries are just chock full of fish, and there's so many fish in our reservoirs, and our reservoirs are so fertile compared to back east. You catch a fish out of a tree, and then if you come back to that tree 2 days later, you usually catch that same fish, you know, or you know, they don't really travel very far.
Well, I think
our reservoirs.
Well, and I think that's one of the biggest differences too, is like, which is what we've talked about, you know, before, is that water depth. You know, I mean, most of the time, I mean, I've fished in a ton of lakes back there now, and it's, you know, when you're talking 8, 10, 15 feet, that's deep water. You know, that is that is, they're sitting on brush piles in 12 feet of water going, oh man, this is you know, this is deep. We're fishing deep here. And you know, I'm blown away, because just like what you said, I mean, we're sitting on, you know, our lakes fluctuate 100 feet, and you still got 150 feet to go before you're even close to shallow, you know, or to your low like that. So I think that does add a certain amount to it, you know, of difference in the fact that, and a lot of what you just said too, is that not once have you mentioned grass at all in any of these lakes that you're fishing. You know, you're talking about rock, you're talking about shell beds, you're talking about trees, you're talking about it, but no grass. Now, don't get me wrong, we've got plenty of waterways out here that have grass in them. Clear Lake being the notable one, the Delta, that sort of thing. But you know, the amount of grass they have. Oh yeah, but the amount of grass that they fish back there is a ton. You know, because it's shallow, because their lakes are shallow. Here, we don't have that exact same amount. It is different, and I think that's why the spotted bass are so prevalent out here and get so much bigger, is because being that river-based fish that they are, and eating and finding these wide open, massive things of bait fish. You know, I mean, I've seen, but you know, and I know you have too. You know, you've been out there and seen these bait fish that are just massive schools. They're 3 times the size of your boat. You know, if you're in a kayak, you just can't get out of them, or if you're in a regular, you know, in a traditional bass boat, you know, you're seeing these things going, wow, this is a lot of bait fish right here. And that's another thing that I think I wanted to ask you, because you're in a very interesting situation here. And you know, you're a very seasoned, very good kayak fisherman. You've done very well in it. You've done good in that side of the sport. And you know, we've got some tournaments coming up with that. And we also, but you fish out of a traditional bass boat. You know, so you're in a position where a lot of guys are kind of choosing one or the other right now, and being able to be out there in both of them. It's hard to say, hey, can you compare them? But I'd love to know if, you know, is there a day when you're like, you know what, I want to go out in the kayak, or I want to go out in the boat, and this is why. What is it that makes you, you know, choose the kayak to do these tournaments in, especially in the waterways that we have there? There's these big lakes, hard to get around on if you're just in the, you know, you're not going to Shasta and running all the way up the American thing, turning around and going all the way up the pit. You know, you're not doing that in a kayak.
No.
You know, what is it that makes you choose the kayak over the bass boat?
That's a great question. So, for one, the kayak community, the guys are really great guys. I'm not saying the bass boat guys aren't, but when, let's just say I'm fishing Lake Oroville. No, let's say Shasta,
Okay.
And I'm sitting on top of a rock pile, and that rock pile is in let's say 40 feet of water, and I'm having on spot lock and I'm casting out. And here comes this guy in a kayak. I see him long ways away. He's coming in. He's coming in. And he's coming in. And he pulls up and he goes, "Yo, bro, man, would it be cool if I kind of like fished by you, you know? I just came from over there. It took me an hour to get here." "Yeah, bro, go ahead, man. Yeah,
Right.
knock yourself out. Matter of fact, you come fish right next to me. You know, hey, I'm using this. This has been working for me."
Mm-hmm.
That's the conversation that the kayak guys have. Now, the bass boat guys are like, "Bro, you're way too close to me." You know what I mean? But you know, again, it's all about communicating. You know, "Hey, yeah, come on in. You know, it's cool. You know, there's plenty of fish here, plenty of room. You know, just let me have this area." Or, you know, it's usually communication is a big key to but and then again too, okay, so when you're in a bass boat, you have this thing behind you. It's that goes, you know, makes the boat go from A to Z, back to B, back to, I mean, you could go anywhere you want in minutes.
Right.
Now, in a kayak, okay, you don't have that choice. You basically, if you make an hour run, it's 4 miles away.
Right.
And then you fish your way back, or you fish your way to that area. So everything you fish extremely thoroughly, because that's all you have is what's in front of you.
Right.
And what a kayak does, it actually makes you a better fisherman, because you have to make the adjustments. You have to know when to make those adjustments. You can't run a topwater pattern or on main lake points and hit 100 main lake points. You have to go and whatever you have in front of you, you have to figure out how to catch those fish at that moment, and then make the adjustments to catch more fish in the same area. Meaning it really does make you a better fisherman. And then two, when you're out on the water in a kayak, you're by yourself. It's all you. Okay, you're the guy that has to make all the decisions. You don't have, "Hey, you know, what are you feeling? You know, what do you think? You know, should we go over here? Well, yeah, let's make this 15-mile run. You know, oh, it's not working. Okay, let's go back. Okay, 15 miles back. You know, no, it's just you." And then when you figure them out and you start catching fish after fish after fish, because the kayak, for one, it's so stealthy and quiet. Even though you have your electronics pinging and your forward facing going off, it's stealthy. You don't. What I noticed is, like at Clear Lake, for instance, I'm in literally a foot and a half of water, throwing a buzzbait, and I have fish that are eating the buzzbait with 4 inches of line out of my rod tip, right at the boat. And splashing me, get me wet. Now in a bass boat, that's not going to happen, because the volume of water that boat pushes and moves, the fish know you're there. Compared to a kayak, they don't know you're there. And then, for instance, at the Delta one day, there's a bunch of bedfish. I had these bedfish go underneath the kayak and literally hang out underneath my kayak.
Little shade?
It was, yeah, a little shade. It was like, all right, got a little shade, you know? And so, and then too, when you catch a fish in a kayak, you really have to experience this part. So when you set the hook, the kayak does move a little bit. So you really have to adjust everything. You have to adjust your reel speed. So you have to get a higher reel speed. You have to get a rod that has more parabolic bend in it to keep that bend, you know. Even punching, when you punch, you got to keep that bend in that rod to keep that hook. You know, once that rod goes straight, you lose the fish. So there's all this huge learning curve. And then when you do catch a fish in a kayak, it tows you around. even a little 1 pound spot will move your kayak around.
Yeah.
You know, the very first fish, this is what got me hooked. I was at Chelsea Bass Ranch, and a buddy of mine goes, "Hey, you want to take the kayak out?" Yeah, sure. So he brings 2 kayaks. We go out. Steve Nylander's the guy's name. And I catch a 4-pounder on a jig on the rock dam in the middle of winter. The water is like 40 degrees. And I throw this jig up there, and I feel a thunk. And I'm thinking, okay, don't flip it. Reel up. Don't flip it. Okay, now set the hook. Be ready. Don't flip it. And I set the hook. And I think it was like a 6.5. And the fish turned the boat from pointing from, say, north all the way to south.
Wow.
Tired of searching through ads to find bass articles in your favorite fishing magazine? Well, we have a solution for that. Introducing Bass Angler Magazine with over 30 articles in every issue, filled with tips and techniques to help you catch more fish. Follow the pros as they publish the most up-to-date seasonal methods to catching bigger bass. Whether you're a beginner or professional angler, make Bass Angler Magazine part of your gear today. Be a part of the fastest growing bass publication in the nation. Log on to bassanglermag.com with code TV and save 20% when you subscribe now.
Yeah, and I'm like, whoa. So I get the fish next to the boat, and I pedal over to where the guy's at. I go, look what I caught, you know? So at that point, I knew there was something else. I mean, being in a bass boat for years and years and years and years, going to this kayak. And then he's like, hey, I'm going to start a kayak tournament circuit. Okay, great, you know? And then next, I started like fishing these circuits and stuff. And you know, it's a whole nother, I tell you, if more people that did the bass boats went to kayaks, you would have more people in kayaks than you would have bass boats. I really feel that way, just because of how it's one-on-one battle, you against the fish. You know, there's even them pro-ams. You have an am in the back of the boat, right?
Right.
Now that guy catches a fish, right? And you're like, hey, he's throwing an A-rig, you're on top of an island at Shasta, and he threw it out to 80 feet of water, and as it sank to the bottom, he caught a fish.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, I could do that. Get on top of the island, start heaving the A-rig out, let it go to the bottom. There's, what I mean? It's
right.
That is helpful. Now in a kayak, you don't have that.
Right.
You don't have someone to help you out. So really, it does make a better fisherman out of you. It makes you fish thoroughly. And one thing too, I would always have a habit of doing is I started off with like 15 rods in this kayak. I look like a porcupine. I mean, there's rods all over the place. And I got it down to 12, and I got down to 10, Sometimes I have 9, But it's like a security thing too, You just never know. I like to be able to get that rod, make it, okay, I feel like this is going to work, Throw the jig over there. Throw the tube over there. Throw the A-rig, Okay, that didn't work. Try the drop shot, or So
right.
It does make you a better fisherman, and also, like I said, it's so these kayaks go 4 miles an hour. Some will go a little bit faster, but 5 miles an hour would probably be like the top speed. So let's just say if you went 10 miles away, you already spent 2 hours sitting in the kayak, doing absolutely nothing. Except for reaching the spot you want to go to. And then you got 2 hours to go back.
Right.
Basically, you spent 4 hours sitting in the kayak. So, that's the other thing too, is you really have to
manage your time. Is that where you're going with that? Because I got to tell you, because that's all I could think of when you're just saying that is, man, you got to really make some decisions right there. I still, like you just said, I can get my boat fired up. Boom. I can be point. I can hit 25 points before you get to 2.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Before you can get the 1. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And yeah, it's huge. And That's the other thing too, is so when you do find a pattern in a kayak, you're like, okay, but what else can I do to make it so I catch more fish? How do I fine tune that pattern? But what it does too is it has it to where you're like, okay, wow, okay, wait a minute. I caught the fish on the rock pile in 40 feet of water, but the sun was on my back. And I was casting over to the shading side of the island. So then when you turn your kayak around and cast into the sun, you don't get bit. Then you realize, okay, look, that's the key, is fishing the shady side of the island or the sunny side of the island. And that's the kind of stuff that you really fine tune in a kayak compared to a bass boat. A bass boat, you pull up, you don't even think about that. A lot of times you even go with the wind. In a kayak, you're always going against the wind. You're pushing into the wind, and you have to. And when you pull up to a point, you have one chance at one cast, and it has to be perfect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I
but
get
now
it.
With the spot lock, you can actually spot lock yourself on the point, and you literally stand up and you cast all the way around you. Then you move the kayak on the pointy end of the point.
Right.
And then you cast all around you. Then you pull it up on the windiest part of it, and then you cast around the point. Then you pull yourself where it's calm and cast all around you. So you really do pick everything apart.
So what you're telling me is that spot lock is destroying kayak fishing.
For me, my legs. So I usually use the motor to get there, and then I pedal.
Yeah.
And I have a Hobie, and it goes 360, and the steering, it's amazing. You could go in circles, real tight circles. But when it's windy, I have to use the spot lock, because the second you stop pedaling, you're 50 yards off the spot. Then you have to pedal all the way back. You know what I mean? So,
and that kind of does lead me to one other question that you're right on the edge of it, but I'm going to push you over it. How is it that you get up in the morning and you go and it's, hey, I got a tournament today, and I got a kayak tournament, and it's 20 mile per hour wind. It's 20 mile per hour winds. It's pouring down rain, and the forecast is that it's pouring down rain some more, with maybe winds up to 20, 25, with wind gusting in 30. You get to the water, you're looking out there, and they go, okay, and blast off. What is it that makes you go, I really wish I had my bass boat today? Is it just that point, or do you not care? And it's like, nope, doesn't bother me a bit to be out there in the kayak on that.
Yeah, that's a good question, because Lake Shasta, we showed up, and it rained all night. My kayak was completely full of water on the inside. I had to point it downhill, bilge it out, sponge it out, and it's just pouring down rain, and the wind kind of was picking up. It wasn't 20, it was 10, 15. 30 mile an hour gusts occasionally. Does it get sketchy out there? Yeah, in a kayak, yeah. Do you, in the wintertime, do I dress appropriately? I have a wetsuit on. I have everything that wicks. I have a dry bag with a fire starter. I mean, I'm prepared. If I flip it, I'm not going to get hypothermic, so you really have to be prepared, even in a bass boat. I mean, I've been on lakes, Lake Mead in a bass boat. The top of it is a 2-foot roller, and you're going up the wave, and the boat, the prop blows out, and the boat feels like going to flip over backwards, and then you make it over the wave, and then a 5-gallon bucket of water sprays you right in the face, and your boat's halfway full of water, and and you're like, what am I doing? So yeah, it's in a kayak, I've been in some pretty sketchy stuff. Is it terrifying? Yeah, it is. when it comes to fishing and stuff, have I ever stood on the bank and looked out there and said, there's no way I'm going out there? Yeah. And then you have to adjust. And then what you have to do is basically use your head, go to an area where it's protected, and know that you can get back safely. And then most important part, besides dressing appropriately, is having a buddy close by.
Okay.
Or another fisherman close by. So if something were to happen, we could help each other out. And that's what you really have to do. So yeah, I'd rather be in a bass boat. No, actually, I'd rather be in my truck with the heater blowing.
Well, that kind of leads me to this. I mean, because for years, I was a tournament director too. I did these things, and we have to make these decisions. So do you think, you're a guy who fishes these kayak tournaments. Do you feel like, or do you think that tournament directors need to be more aware if they're doing kayak events? I mean, we got this, Bass Angler Magazine we're going to have our own kayak series going in this thing. We're going to, putting this on. Do we have to be there going, maybe I don't let these guys go out in this?
Yes.
And is that fair to that genre and say, hey, you know what, guys, I'm sorry, but we don't feel comfortable. Even if you do, we don't feel comfortable sending you out there. Is that still okay for them to say?
I prefer that. I really prefer that. Safety first. Safety first. We all want to make it home, and that's the most important thing. The decision, so we have the kayak guys have all these different apps, and one of them's called Windy. Mm-hmm. And basically you look at it, and I can forecast how windy it's going to be exactly where I'm at in an hour from now. And that is crucial. Basically, I'll get on my phone and I'll look. I'll like, okay, it's 20 mile an hour winds with 30 mile an hour gusts now. It's going to be 30 mile an hour winds with 50 mile an hour gusts. I'm leaving. In an hour from now, I'm leaving. I'm heading back. And then I'm on the way back. If I'm by myself, I'll see somebody like, bro, let's go in. Let's go in together. It's going to get really bad. So yes, that's huge. It's, and two, like, even though it's not necessarily like the kayak community, they'll always help each other out, so stuff like that, even if you don't know the person, they're always like, they're going to be there with you and go in with you or leave the ramp with you. And then two, a lot of times they have it where you can launch multiple ramps. I actually prefer to, I prefer everybody launching the same ramp. That way the TD knows who's there, right? And know who comes back. So that was a question I was going to ask you, because I have seen that quite a bit, where it's like, I can take off and drive 5 miles up the lake and I'm going to go launch there. But 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 different, 15 different guys go 15 different ways, and they all attack a lake, and you've got bad weather comes up or severe weather comes up. Isn't it more, I guess, safer? I don't want to say more, but isn't it safer that we say, no, we need you to all launch out of here, so that we know if you don't come back, we need to send somebody out to find you? Exactly. Yeah. I prefer that. I wouldn't say everybody would agree with me. I would say half the people would not agree with me. Maybe half would. A lot of people are like, hey, I'll just launch over here. The wind's gonna be blowing over my head. It'd be flat calm over there. You have that choice to launch somewhere else. Yeah. But what happens if the wind changes direction in the middle of the day, which it does all the time?
Right.
I've never been in a storm that it didn't blow one way in the morning and change directions in the afternoon.
Right.
Just like today it did that. So, yeah, 50 kayaks launching out of one ramp. I heard one guy, they call this the ramp roaches.
Yeah.
Yeah, ramproaches.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
you have 50 guys. Some have kayak trailers, some in the back of the truck. So there's basically a whole bunch of people all over the ramp, and they're all launching at the same time. It's not one boat at a time. It's like it's a free for all, and it literally looks like ramproaches. It's a good visual. It's kind of like, so and that's the other thing too. It's like you don't want to make it so people are uncomfortable or holding up the ramp and stuff like that. There's ways you could, keep everything to one side, and just everybody help each other. Get the kayak. If you're putting it in the back of your truck, 2 guys or 3 guys grab that kayak, put it off to the side, get the next one, put it off to the side, go get your truck, back it down, help each other throw your stuff in the truck. The guys with trailers, help each other out. A lot of guys, people with 2 kayaks on one trailer, they could launch it and put it on there just within minutes, just like a bass boat. Same with the guys do it by themselves. They have a thing where they actually use a remote and drive their kayak right on their trailer. So, I mean, there's, it's getting quicker. More and more people are using trailers too, by the way. Yeah. In the kayak scene. And that's the other thing too, is so in the kayak scene, it's everything is like new, and it's progressing to the point now where what's next? Running, a 5 horsepower motor on the back of your kayak. No.
Right.
You have to have these set rules, just like a 250 on the back of a bass boat.
Right.
You can run a 350 or a 400, but on certain circuits, you can't have more than a 250 on the back. So it's the same thing with a kayak. You can only have so many pounds of thrust or horsepower, which is I think 3 horsepower. So
okay.
That's the other thing. I mean, some people had it where you could put 2 motors on your kayak. Well, I weighed 200 pounds, and then I put a trolling motor in the front, trolling motor in the back. I got 2 batteries, and then I got my fishing tackle. Well, now my boat's rated for 300 pounds, right? Well,
you're pushing that limit for sure.
Yeah, I'm about sinking this boat down the lake, So safety first. Always in a kayak, in any bass tournament. Everybody wants to make it home safe. So I mean that's a huge focus. I personally, like I said, like everybody launching at the same ramp. Everybody has the same area they have to fish. Clear Lake. You have multiple ramps you can launch from. One end of the lake could be way better than the other end of the lake. And and I've done this where I make the wrong decision. I launch at the wrong ramp, and then I'm
shot yourself in the foot, basically. Yeah.
At the Delta, I launched at the wrong ramp. I should have launched at this ramp, but that's the other thing too. It's like, doing your homework, and spending that time finding the fish, finding the best locations and stuff like that. Now, on Lake Berryessa, it was open launch, and you could launch at any launch ramp. The ramp I actually launched at, the guy won it, and he fished from the same launch ramp. I was chasing schooling fish with a spoon. He was throwing a drop shot and spot locking and catching these fish in 20 feet of water or less. And I'm out in 50, 60, 70 feet of water catching suspended fish, So, he made the right decision,
Well, not just that, and that's just fishing in general right there. I mean, that's just, Yeah, I mean, I get some of your points. We are at the end of this show, unfortunately, and John, it's been great hearing from you, man. The knowledge that you have is amazing.
Thank you.
I hope guys really got a lot out of this. We're gonna have to wrap it up. but I'd love to let you, tell some people a little bit about who you are and, what you're out there doing and where you're going to be next year.
Okay. So, next year, my plan is to fish the BAM, Bass Anglers Magazine's brand new kayak circuit. I may actually fish some pro-ams as the pointy end of the boat. I might end up fishing FLW in the back of the boat. I will fish Yakka bass. That's another kayak circuit. I'll probably fish some new gen team tournaments. So I just recently retired. Last year, it's good to be retired. Last year, I didn't fish as many tournaments as I did the year before. I did 27 tournaments.
Wow.
And I did like 0 pre-fish. I just showed up and fished. And this year coming up, I'm going to do some pre-fishing. So I have the time.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to fishing BAM. They have some great things going on. Angler of the Year, and then the TOC, well thought out. The Angler of the Year gets X amount of dollars. The TOC, there's no entry fees. And then 2, Michael Bray, he's going to be the TD. The guy's very professional at what he does. He does a great job at what he does. And he likes being a TD. Michael and I met each other a few years ago. I brought him to Don Pedro and maybe talked to him about that fishing trip we went on. But we were catching fish pretty deep. I'm a grandpa. I got
nice.
2 grandbabies. One's 18 and one's 15. So
wow, okay.
They're not babies. Babies. But looking forward to next year. I love fishing. I do a little bit of golfing. And Ed, I really appreciate your time and asking me on. And if we could do this again another time for spring fishing, or
no, absolutely. We've got our job here at Bass Angler Magazine is to help everybody out there just become better fishermen. Be listening to guys with as much knowledge as you have, the amount of fishing you're doing out there. I mean, you were on the lake, you've been on the water the last couple of days. It's fresh knowledge. It's what's going on. I think that what you've said a lot can translate to other areas of the country, and that's a big thing. The kayak thing growing so much and getting as big as it is. And, the only thing I took away from, one of the biggest things I guess I took away from, talking about the kayak fishing and, if you become a kayak angler, you're going to be a better angler. So what I heard in that is, let's keep Ken Maw and John Pearl. Let's keep those guys out of kayaks. That's all I could hear out of that. So we don't need them to be any better anglers than they are already. So, let's, but thank you, John. I really appreciate you coming on, spending your time. You just got off the water. We're doing this. This show is actually being recorded pretty late at night now. It's been dark for like 4 hours and it'll be a good show though. I think people out there will learn a lot from what you had to say. And I really appreciate that. So,
Thank you.
But thanks for tuning in, everybody. We're going to, end this show here. And I hope you did get to learn a lot. I hope this one really helps you become that better angler. And we will see you on the next one. Thanks for your patience and time with me. And we will hopefully you tune in and listen to the next one.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening.